podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
We are delighted to be once again brought to you by The Athletic. The Athletic is a subscription journalism service providing the best coverage of Manchester United and more from writers like Laurie Whitwell, Oliver Kay, Adam Crafton, David Ornstein and Daniel Taylor. Their world-class team of writers is brought to you completely ad-free on their app. There's no ads, no annoying pop-ups, and they go really in-depth on a huge range of topics around all different aspects of football. To start a 7-day free trial and receive 50% off your yearly subscription, meaning it works out to just £2.50 a month, head to theathletic.co.uk/NQATpod. That's theathletic.co.uk/NQATpod. So, Ed, 2-0 loss to Liverpool.
Not unexpected.
No, I can't remember what we predicted, but it was something around that,
Something
wasn't
like
it?
that. I think that might have been the exact score prediction, in fact.
It was an interesting game in a way because it reminded me of the Champions League final. Not that we're likely to see a Champions League final in a while, but it was sort of like, even though they scored once at the beginning and once at the end, it sort of just felt quite comfortable for Liverpool the whole way through.
Well, it was. They were United-fashioned. Probably the best chance was Martial's chance, where he had a pretty clear shooting opportunity from sort of an angle and just lashed it over, which was unusual for him. He's normally much more composed than that. There's one Fred sort of half shot, not much in it. And then Andres Pereira's... tickled the bottom of his studs and got massive XG juice for that, but not really a chance. I mean, he wasn't close enough to it. And that was it from United. And the famed sort of beat the first press and then break never really happened. United just weren't dangerous from that. And in fact, there were quite a few times where Liverpool very effectively pressed our defensive players and won possession in high areas, which of course they do to everybody, but we just were not effective at beating that at all.
As you would sort of expect from the starting 11, really. I mean, the midfield were okay in possession, both of them. I don't know, apart from maybe Aaron Wan-Bissaka in the first half, I don't know that I would kind of point at any United player and say, like, you have personally performed absolutely terribly in that game. It was just all a bit like a combination of, I don't know, they just performed to about their mean. It felt like, which in the absence of most of the really special players, in the absence of any kind of, I mean, the decision to play a back three is sort of understandable given the how thinly stretched the resources are, but the fact that we were repeatedly utterly chaotic in that first half defensively can't be a surprise when you suddenly play Luke Shaw as a third centre-back. I don't mean, that's not even me slagging off Luke Shaw as just, that's not the player's fault. How are you going to implement that system so quickly?
Yeah. I think there were some things that did work. So, I mean, we go to the selection, I guess, right from the start. I mean, that was a surprise and not a surprise because United played 3 at the back against Liverpool last time out and managed to pin back Liverpool's fullbacks. Different personnel in different positions this time. Or, Williams trying to play high up the pitch, sort of managed to do it. I actually thought the most effective tactical change was to have Pereira trying to find space in between the lines because he did disrupt Liverpool's system on the very rare occasion that he was found by his colleagues. That sort of worked. I mean, you can kind of see where Solskjaer was trying to come from given the resources he had available. I have to say, if I was Eric Bailly and Phil Jones on the bench looking at Luke Shaw in a back three, I might be wondering what my position was at the club. There's mitigating circumstances, of course. Eric Bailly only just come back into the squad. Phil Jones. I mean, Phil Jones is Phil Jones.
He's a walking mitigating circumstance. I mean, I think it tells us a lot about where he is in the pecking order and nothing about where Bailly is, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's fair enough. So, I mean, you can see what Solskjaer was trying to do. United just weren't able to execute on it in this game. They weren't. Solskjaer has talked about it before. The key to beating City and Liverpool is to beat the first press. So pass it out of the back calmly, and United were not able to really do that. I mean, Fred was actually decent in midfield again. We found a footballer there.
Yeah, definitely.
And Twitter is no place for a nuanced discussion about anything, let alone football. And it wasn't in the aftermath of this game. But there are things that Ollie has in his favour. He has found a player in Fred. He's clearly helped improve Marcus Rashford, and we'll get on to talking about him a bit more in a bit, I think. He's found Williams. He's integrated Wan-Bissaka into the team. There's lots of positives. He can, on occasion, especially in these big games, innovate tactically. I mean, it's around the theme, isn't it? But the things that he's really failed at, finding any kind of attacking pattern of play. I mean, it's not just the gulf in class in quality between these two teams. The gulf in class in repeated tactical patterns of attacking play is absolutely astronomical. There's nothing from United at all. And it's all learned at Liverpool. I mean, that's not come by accident. Klopp is not of the Mourinho school. You give them a framework and say, go express yourself. Or even actually, in fact, the Fergie school, because he was very much of that ilk as well. Klopp and Guardiola are very, prescribed in how they want to create patterns, create fashion chances, and it's obviously deeply successful. And Ollie is nowhere near that, and United are a long, long way behind that, and it showed.
Yeah, and I'd say, because I agree, it's important not to. It feels like at the moment this always sort of feels the case, but it feels particularly polarized at the moment, and it's rarely been more evident that actually the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Like, there's lots of people kind of willing to go to bat for Ole and the things that he's getting right, and lots of people willing to slag everything he does off and desperate for United to lose so the manager gets sacked. That is a weird subculture that's happening at the moment. But the truth is, like, all those things you said he does right. One of the things that he gets wrong time after time after time, which was so significant in this game, was chatting with Cal during the show, friend of the show, Cal Gildart, and he was expressing his frustration that the Greenwood substitution should have happened. Now, I think a lot of us felt that frustration, but what was evident was that the substitution was held back because we were on top, as opposed to like pressing the advantage. And it was actually after the impetus had swung again that the substitution happened. And it feels like it was such a missed opportunity around the 60-minute mark in that game to inject something really special into the game.
Yes, and I mean, I wouldn't say there were very many periods United were actually really on top. I mean, had a surprisingly large amount of possession in this game for a game of this type. It wasn't like the City game where United had 30%, and United pushing on just over 45% possession in this game. And the thing that Ollie doesn't do is manage transitions in the ebb and flow of the game very proactively at all. He waits a very long time to either capitalise on United being on top or react to change or negative circumstances. And it's true, Greenwood probably came on 15 minutes too late in order to press home any opportunity United were going to create. Or he's the man in the squad in the absence of Rashford that's going to take a half chance, you imagine.
Yeah, I mean, Martial, of course, can on his day. Martial can, but it wasn't his day. I mean, we were not absolutely woeful in the way that we were against City in the Carabao Cup, but Liverpool were comfy all the way through. I mean, this is very basic in a way, but you can't fault these players' effort. They're not trying. You know, there's just a lack of quality in the squad. There's a lack of not tactical, but like, I don't know what you call it. Like you were saying, patterns of play, execution, that kind of thing. Not tactical in terms of formation or whatever, or who's playing where, but the subtle specifics of in-game, performance. That's really lacking. And of course, the thing that you mentioned, Rashford, and no doubt everyone's talking about this. We'll touch on it. This whole business about injury management and what's happened to these players and the incredibly serious consequences that this is having. This is not like us being, snowflakes or whatever, who don't understand that football's for men. This is like, no, you're actually probably going to ruin at least one career if you keep doing this.
Yeah, well, look. Since you touched on it, why don't we cover that, and then we'll come back
Let's
to
do it.
The mess that was the goal that United conceded, or the first goal United conceded. So, the conflicting reports a little bit, because Ollie effectively after the game said. Basically denied United knew that he had a stress fracture and said it happened during the Wolves game. That said, the Independent in their reporting have contradicted that, saying that Rashford has been taking a mobile ultrasound unit around with him, which is for healing fractures. Pretty big clue there to what was going on. And Henry Winter, before the game, and he, of course, broke the fact that Rashford had one stress fracture and now has two, just in the aftermath of the game. Before the game, in his reporting, said there's serious concern about Rashford's health and he needs to not be pushed at this point. So I think it was known, and I suspect Ollie, and we'll find out more, that Ollie's being disingenuous here, and the club knew about the extent of Rashford's injury prior to the Wolves game, and that's why he didn't start, and they risked him. And this is the worst of them, but there have been several. Pogba twice played with an ankle injury. McTominay played with a knee injury, carried on in game, but still, someone has to make a decision for these players. And Maguire's been playing with this minor tear in his upper thigh / hip. And apparently Jesse Lingard also played with an injury and exacerbated it. So it's a pattern. And and I think the reaction has been a little bit on in the Twitter sphere. Oh, these players, they get to say whether they're fit or not. It's not the manager's fault. But I just don't buy it. I mean, these are, in the case of Rashford, a more than £100 million asset. If you were a corporation and you broke a £100 million asset because you around with it, someone's getting fired.
Absolutely.
And in this case, someone should be getting fired.
And also, the decision shouldn't be made by the 22-year-old athlete.
Right,
the 22-year-old Man United fan athlete. That's not who should be making the decision about whether he plays with a stress fracture or not. He's not a doctor. Do you know what I mean? Obviously Ollie isn't either. But the idea that the player is the one on whom the responsibility rests is absolute nonsense. Because, you can't say that on one hand and then go into press conferences and say this person's a warrior. If this was Mourinho, this has been Mourinho many times. Mourinho with his whole, is he really, are Smalling and Jones really injured? About two players who've lost vast swathes of their career to injury.
It's nonsense kind of machismo, isn't it? And I mean, Mourinho, who effectively got sacked because of his handling of an injury at Chelsea, where he contradicted the doctor came onto the field and to treat the player, Mourinho didn't like it and demoted her. And she got £4 million in compensation after that, and Mourinho got the boot. Not directly, but it basically soured his relationship with the club. So, I think football's got a lot to learn here. I mean, we were just talking in before the show that Sean Dyche has been saying that CTE, repetitive strain on the head and causing sort of long-term brain damage, basically, can be avoided in football if you just head the ball correctly. And there's an increasing amount of evidence that heading the ball correctly or incorrectly is causing significant damage to footballers. Obviously, Jeff Astle died of this. Loads of American footballers. There's been a huge settlement there. And the Scottish FA has just recommended that kids under 12 are not allowed to head the ball. There's a significant amount of concern. Anyway, that's a wider story, but I think United's management of injuries is bordering on disgraceful, honestly. And Ollie, he's right at the centre of that.
And there's this reaction whenever a journalist says anything of like, oh, as a journalist, it can't be true. And it's like, these people aren't all the same. Like Henry Winter he's a responsible human being. Do you know what I mean? Like he's not like tweeting something for retweets. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right. And in fact, I'm going to guarantee with Winter, and especially, and it's the Telegraph, right? Whatever you think of their politics, it's the journalist's paper, for a long record of this, that he will have double or triple sourced that.
Exactly. Now, I am not a journalist and I've not double or tripled sourced this, but Rashford being in serious pain before the Wolves game, that's definitely what I heard. So, that is not double or triple sourced, but it's sourced. So, it's...
Yeah, anyway, it's really poor. What was also poor was United's defending for Liverpool's opening goal. It's become a little bit of a running joke. And I feel like I don't want to be this kind of podcaster who's going, oh, look at him. But Maguire's, I'm just not convinced. I just wasn't convinced before. I'm not sure he's a £40 million defender, let alone an £80 million defender.
He's definitely a £40 million defender.
He cannot defend zonally at corners or set pieces. He can't. He just can't. He gets himself in the wrong position all of the time.
First of all, I think this one is a general omni-shambles as well. Like Lindelof misses a header this is as much on Lindelof as it is on Maguire in terms of like the lack of attacking of the zones. We end up with Brandon Williams marking Virgil van Dijk, which, that's obviously not meant to happen, and that's not how the plan is put together. But that's mostly because Lindelof and Maguire don't attack the zone properly.
No, that's right. They really don't. And
I also think specifically on Maguire, I reckon this is going to be like one of those things where we look back in 6 months or whatever and go, oh yeah, he was rubbish because he was playing injured. Like that's the other thing about it.
Yeah, it might well be. He can't get up.
Yeah,
because he's got this tear in his thigh muscle. I mean, it really wouldn't be a surprise. It really wouldn't be a surprise. So, I mean, he's made several mistakes this season. I don't think he's having a 6 out of 10 season, unfortunately. And obviously United needed an awful lot more from him than that. I mean, like United paid a world record fee for a defender. He's not even the best defender at the club right now. I mean, that's Aaron Wan-Bissaka by miles and miles and miles. It's really worrying. It's because United probably need an upgrade in that position in order to really. But you got £200 million worth of defenders there. Lindelof 30 million, Shaw 30 million, De Gea a bargain at about half that. Wan-Bissaka at 50 million, Maguire at 80 million. Awful lot of money.
Buy on the bench for another 30, 40, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I got a question about Maguire, of course, is that he's been made club captain now, which is really interesting, and in a way probably not that significant, but nonetheless, this is a signing from 6 months ago who has been kind of somewhat average. I mean, he clearly has got leadership skills,
And I'm sure that's what Ollie's looking for, because he's not hesitated in making that decision, and he's obviously respected in the dressing room. Otherwise, he wouldn't have got that either. And fair enough. Great. I'd like him to get some defending skills. That's also quite important. And like 8 goals now. 8 United have conceded from set pieces. Joint worst in the division with Aston Villa.
And genuinely, when we signed Maguire for 80 million, one of the things I certainly thought would be a lot better would be our defending from set pieces. But it just hasn't come to pass. In fact, it's much, much worse.
Yeah, and Chris... then you got to say something. I mean, like we're heaping all the blame on the defenders here, but what are they doing on the training field?
No, I mean, absolutely. Like everything that's wrong on the pitch has that question to it. There is this sense that this is a team where, I've definitely felt this way under Mourinho, that you're looking at them going like, what are they even trying to do? Occasionally with this team, you sort of get a sense of what they're kind of trying to do now, which is genuinely like an upgrade on where we were 3 months ago, but not anything like where you'd want to be. I don't know, man. It's pretty crazy how terribly a lot of the kind of metrics by which you would say, is a manager doing well or not? It's pretty crazy how many of those are, he's doing pretty, like, bad to awful.
Yeah.
And is under absolutely no tangible pressure.
Yeah. And look, there's some really specific reasons why that's now the case, isn't it? I mean, a lot of it's tied up with the Ed Woodward project and that he has invested his reputation in Ollie and this narrative around it's a long-term development, and now we're delighted with the way we do transfers, and we're doing it's sensible transfers now. Sensible, apparently. Notwithstanding the fact that 6 months ago we spent 80 million on Harry Maguire, we're now completely sensible about it, and we analyse 800 right backs in order to get to Wan-Bissaka, who just happened to be the best right back in the league last season, or defensively at least. And we've got all these analytics companies working for us and scouts all over Europe, and because we're doing it the right way now, we're still going to have Ed Woodward and Matt Judge try and execute on those deals, and let's see how many of those actually get done. As we're seeing in this transfer window, once again, United have no ability to go actually execute on the player they've identified, which of course is the role that you have a director of football for, and why all the top clubs have that director of football, so you can plan out and execute and have the right contacts and so on. Anyway, that's a slightly different point, but it's we've got some opprobrium for the players here and for Ollie, and I agree with you. I don't hardly ever see any sense of what he's trying to build here, apart from defending a low block and break occasionally, but the constituent elements of that aren't there, and then I see no vision at all from the club. And then in the aftermath of the defeat to Liverpool, Gary Neville came out for one of the few times he's ever been critical, and was extremely critical, and basically suggested Woodward should be sacked, which of course he should be, because he's been a complete failure as a CEO on every level now, not just in building a squad capable of competing on the pitch, but the commercials are going to take a really big hit now.
Yeah. The one thing I would say, because I think the low block and counter thing is the story of most of our season, but I would say since Christmas, there's also quite a lot of evidence, I think, that there are some specific instructions for the front three in terms of like one touch and tricks around the box to kind of create momentum, express yourselves, try and move the ball quickly around the, I mean, it's not rocket science or whatever, but that is clearly in those. I think against Newcastle, Burnley, Norwich, like we've done something slightly different than we did in the first half of the season in terms of that. That's the only thing I'd add to that. But yeah, I mean, it's the rest of it. It's just, the Woodward stuff is all completely accurate. It's a complete joke, and it is the biggest handbrake ever in terms of what we can do as a club. But as we said about Mourinho, as I keep saying, I keep referring back to the fact that we said it about Mourinho whenever I say it about Solskjaer, which is that he's not getting the sum of his parts. And I have to say that, having said like over and over again, I'm almost never going to be Ole out because he's Ole, and I'm like happy to admit that that's stupid, but whatever. Here we are. The one exception to that is this injuries thing. This injuries thing is like, oh well, that's a degree of negligence and irresponsibility, not just with the club, but with these young people's lives. Like, a football manager has this responsibility to the people that they are in charge of looking after. if a cricket captain bowls his fast bowler over and over and over and over and over again until he gets injured, that captain's going to get plenty of criticism.
Yeah. Talking to you, Joe Root and Joff. No, look, I think you're completely point, and the kind of rambly point I was trying to make before this is about the ire that we need to direct at many layers of the club. I mean, just case in point, this week, Celtic physio Tim Williamson rejected an offer from Manchester United because United had taken 3 weeks to finalise the offer for him.
Wow.
And Ed Woodward was personally leading that one, apparently, right? So United cannot get anything done. And I don't know whether it's the processes internally or just the incompetence of these people or the fact that every decision, apparently, especially on transfers, has to go back to Florida and the Glazers. The flow on transfers is analytics team, head of analytics, head of scouting, Ollie, Woodward, Judge, Avram and Joel Glazer. This is why nothing gets done. We can't even sign a physio for our broken squad, let alone a midfielder or two that we desperately need.
We're not doing a full-length show this week because I'm injured, funnily enough, ironically. But
Ollie would have you out there doing it for the shirt or the mic.
No questions. So we're not going to do Twitter questions. We'll come back and do those either on Friday or do like double next week. But we did have a question on the Instagram messages, which I don't have access to this second because I can't move properly. But the question was along the lines of Mark Ogden and also Phil Brown are saying that their information is that United actually just don't have any money to spend, and that's one of the reasons that transfers are not happening.
One of the things we didn't do on Monday was go through the Deloitte Football Finance Report, which came out. There's nothing surprising in the Deloitte Football Finance Report. If you just look at United's quarterly filings, all about United's finances. But look, there's United are. What my sense is that the Glazers, of course, long gave up on competing for the title. Long gave up on that. And I think they're probably quite willing to give up on being in the Champions League, and they'll just cut their cloth accordingly. And, people do mock me when I say this on Twitter, but I am 100% certain that their business model is basically arranged around them getting whatever dividend they want out of the club. That particular year, it's averaging about 20 million at the moment, and they will spend around that, right? And so United will be under pressure right now financially. So we've taken a 45 to 60 million pound hit from not being in the Champions League. That's broadcast rights, that's extra income at the gate, that's sponsor clauses, stuff like that. There will be an extra 45 million pound hit on the Adidas deal next season if United are not in the Champions League, which, let's be honest, it seems unlikely. Yeah. Plus, they make some savings because a lot of the players have a penalty in their contracts. Although, let's see how happy the players are when that kicks in for a second year. But it doesn't cover all the losses. So you're talking about £100 million worth of pressure there. United are already guiding 560 to 580 for full year financial year 20. So that's we run June to June at United, so up to June 2020. It will be less than that. It's almost certain that Manchester City will become the biggest revenue generating club in England. Now, you can say, well, some of that's dodgy because it's related party payments and so on, and yes, that's true. But United are going to lose their top spot. They'll probably fall to about 7th or 8th in the Football Money League. Given that they were number one in the world quite a lot of the last sort of 15 years or so, tells you something about which direction the club is heading in at the moment. So this wants commercial juggernaut that innovated around regional partnerships and multi-sector regional partnerships, and did do a lot of innovation in that world post-Gill, has now been caught, very quickly caught, by the way, because the whole market inflated, and then overtaken by a whole host of other clubs. And you then get to the point where can United, the assumption we already always made, and I've said it on this podcast, United make too much money to fail for too long. And the assumption that we can just spend our way out of the crisis then becomes like completely wrong. And United then had to be smart about spending money like Liverpool have been. And we've shown absolutely no inclination to be smart with money at all, ever.
Mm-hmm. It's not going to get any better. I guess before we finish talking about the Liverpool game, worth saying the weird debate about whether the Virgil van Dijk foul on David De Gea was a foul on David De Gea.
Why is that even a debate?
Honestly, I know you weren't watching the Sky coverage, but in the studio, they had Roy Keane, Patrice Evra and Graham Souness. Roy Keane, obviously, like, just parody of himself, going, that's never a foul. He's soft again. And Patrice Evra going, well, that's definitely a foul. And then you had Souness saying, like, railing against VAR and going, if we think of VAR as some omnipotent computer, it's just a bloke watching the telly, more or less. That is a reasonable point. But then Graham Souness said, ask a football person. Now, Patrice Evra is by far the player on that panel who has the most recent experience of playing in contemporary football and has just told you it's a foul. Anyway, Graham Souness freaked out, and then Patrice Evra picked up his glass and looked at it to see if it had booze, as if he was looking to see if it had booze in it, which was very funny. But yeah, it was just nonsense. But Gary Neville also kind of going on about how it wasn't a foul and all of this stuff. So yeah, nonsense, because I don't know how it's not a foul when the goalkeeper catches the ball and the player barges into the keeper and knocks it out of his hands. I believe that is a foul.
Every single time. Not even a debate. I don't even want to talk about it. It's ridiculous. And the shocking thing was that the ref didn't blow for it.
Yeah.
That'd have been twice. That'd have been twice. If VAR hadn't fixed that one, it'd have been twice that Dave's been done. Anyway. Shall we move on, or have we got more to say about the Liverpool game?
It feels like they had the ball in the net another time as well. That one was just offside, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the flag went up in real time. But they just looked loads better than us.
That's because they are loads better than us.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
We have chronic transfer syndrome, which is just like screwing it up time and time and time again.
Yeah, and we probably have to, obviously everyone knows this, but whatever Solskjaer is doing, it's not enough, Whatever.
No, it's not. He's not. You're right. He's not
doing.
making enough incremental improvement. And a better coach would do, but a better coach is going to look at the absolute shambles of this club, cancerous from top to bottom, and go, no, I don't think so. I mean, it's the conversation we had last week that Phil Brown from the Beyond the Pitch podcast was saying that his information was that Pochettino's listed a bunch of conditions to take over, and clearly it's been a job that he was interested in before, Pochettino, and he's a sensible, intelligent manager who has looked at the shambles of the club and said, no, I need these things in order to make it work for me.
And he's absolutely right, because you would have to be stark staring round the twist to believe that you could walk into this United situation and fix it. Like, it's completely and utterly broken. And without a change in the very senior leadership, because the same mistakes are being made over and over and over again, and that is not suddenly going to change. Ed Woodward isn't suddenly going to hand over responsibility. He's not. The Glazers aren't suddenly going to become totally committed to making United the most successful football team they could possibly be.
None of that's totally committed to not doing it, and Ed Woodward and the Glazers will not. I don't think a director. I mean, I'd love to be proved stupid on this one, but I don't think a director of football or any kind of technical director of that nature will ever be employed in a position of real authority because they could challenge and call out what the model is. And the model is to make sure that Ed Woodward gets his $4 million a year and the Glazer boys get their $20 million a year, and they all just manage the business model around the margins. And it doesn't really matter, as long as they can do that, where United finish. and they will keep milking the global reach because United has been in the wilderness before and was popular. And there's some truth, not a total truth, some truth in Woodward's assertion that what United do on the pitch doesn't have any meaningful impact on the commercials off it. Right? And I said there's 100 million impact coming up next year. So it's quite an impact. Right? So he's not totally right, but United can still make a profit depending on how they play the market and what they do with wages and so on with that reduced income.
Yeah, absolutely. So, cheery end to the first half of the show. We'll be back to, I can't imagine it's going to be that much cheerier when we talk about, because it feels like Burnley is not a cheery subject to come back to, but nonetheless, that is I guess after the break, before we get to Burnley, we'll just very briefly touch on the actual transfer market, just to really cheer everyone up.
Yes, nothing's happening.
All right, we'll be right back.
Enjoying, no question about that. If so, let others know about us. The best way to do that is leave us a review and a rating on iTunes and hit that subscribe button.
We are delighted once again to be sponsored by The Athletic. If you want a 7-day free trial and 50% off the first year of your subscription, then you can head to www.theathletic.co.uk/NQATpod. We've talked about this a number of times now, but they have an absolutely world-class team of writers. They cover United and the Premier League and football more generally, with a kind of very wide range of really in-depth content, all ad-free. Also, probably worth mentioning that they've started a United podcast. So my friend of the show, Carl Anker and Laurie Whitwell, are going to be co-hosting Talk of the Devils. That is available not just behind the paywall, but you can get that from wherever you get podcasts. So check that out. I'll always support everything Carl does anyway. And it seems particularly relevant this week to mention that. What have you enjoyed on The Athletic this week, Ed?
Well, there's a good piece from Laurie Whitwell, the United reporter, on the Rashford situation, calling out the fact that United could not leave Rashford out because he's become so crucial to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's team, not just tactically, but in terms of the number of goals he's scoring, and because United failed to replace in the summer Alexis Sanchez or Romelu Lukaku, who headed off to Inter. Lukaku's doing very well at Inter, scoring a lot of goals. Sanchez, as we mentioned earlier in the show, not so much. And look, he's completely correct in that. Great for Lukaku. He's doing well at Inter. It was right for United to move on from that, but it was neglectful, his words, to not replace Lukaku with someone experienced, and we're seeing the cost of that now. The piece I really liked about United is a long-time follower of United, as in he's not a supporter, but writes a lot about United. Daniel Taylor, who came over from The Guardian, he used to be the Manchester United correspondent, of course, before Jamie Jackson took over, and he goes deep dive into Ed Woodward's role at Manchester United and his failures over the last 6.5 years of being executive vice chairman, digging into both Woodward's role in transfers and his now sort of embattled position, having been called out by Gary Neville and by the fans somewhat surprisingly against Norwich a couple of weeks ago. And asking what he's going to do about it now, and questioning United's strategy on transfers, their changing strategy now, not spending silly money on players, having done that for the last 6.5 years, and asking, where does the buck stop? And like completely correct. So really, really good piece from Taylor, as always. I think he always seems to just nail the salient points.
Brill. And yeah, you can find him and lots of other writers on their... Did I say it's an ad-free? No pop-up ad? I think I already said that. But worth repeating, because it's always nice when there are no ads in things.
Unlike this show.
Exactly. So head over to theathletic.co.uk /NQAT pod. And you can get 7-day free trial to see whether you like it or not. And if you do like it, you get 50% off your first year. And it works out to 8 pence a day. That's just 8 pence a day. I think that price is okay. It's just 8 pence a day. That one's dedicated to the boys at TIFO.
Very nice. We'll have Joe back on the show at some point. Maybe your friend Carl from the New Athletic, Talk of the Devils podcast will join us sometime, or maybe it's a bit too big time now.
Yeah, that's definitely Carl. I think we might be able to pull that one off if we really try and pull some strings. All right, thanks everyone. Back to the show. So before the break, Ed, your last words were nothing's happening. Have we signed Bruno Fernandes during that ad break?
I don't think so. So. Bruno Fernandes played. Is it Fernandes or Fernandes?
I don't think we're ever going to have to really learn that because I don't
think so. No, he played in the game. Sporting lost 2-0 to Benfica on Friday night, and he played in that one. So it seems like the situation is this. He's really Sporting's only saleable asset. Sporting are not doing very well in the league this year. They do need money, and as we talked about last time out, they basically mortgaged half of Fernandes already, and so they're trying to play hardball on the price. United are sticking to their guns and seeing as there is no other bidder because basically everyone around Europe sees him as a sort of 40-45 million pound player because everyone has a lot of doubts about him, which United had in the summer. United are unwilling to go, which all sounds very sensible, of course, until you realise that United haven't been playing that game for years, so why do they suddenly start now? And anyway, it doesn't seem like there's a second choice to move on to. So this could go right down to the wire, or he could not sign at all. The other piece of transfer news is that United have apparently made an offer for Jude Bellingham, who's this 16-year-old at Birmingham City, somewhere between 12 and 25 million. I suspect a lot of that is add-ons based on, whether he wins World Player of the Year or, the World Cup or whatever. Never seen him play. Don't know about you. I haven't. But, maybe you're an expert.
I'm not an expert, but the rapper JK, is big Birmingham City fan, posted an Instagram video of Jude Bellingham scoring at the weekend, shouting, "Slap another 10 mil on it! Slap another 10 mil on it!" So, yeah.
One of the few rappers who is not a United fan. We have a big collection of them.
Yeah, we've got Santan Dave, which is like... Santan Dave and Stormzy are both United fans. So, like, it doesn't really matter where we rank in the actual league table. Where we are in, like, UK hip-hop league tables is really high.
Pretty high. Yeah, so not much happening on the transfer front, and which means United for the next... So McTominay's out until March time. Pogba might be the same, and Rashford, they're saying 6 weeks to 2 months, although I would suggest, not being a doctor, and perhaps qualified as Dr. Nick from The Simpsons here, but I would suggest that perhaps you don't rush someone with a spinal injury.
Double stress fracture.
Back too quickly.
Double stress fracture in his spine, and they're like, yeah, 6 weeks. 6 weeks! Absolutely insane.
He'll probably play against Burnley because Ollie will be out. Get out there, son. Anyway, so United are desperately short up front. Desperately short
in the midfield.
Martial, James and Greenwood are the only options, and then obviously Pereira and Mata can play. But
James looks absolutely cream crackered as well.
Of course he is. He's played so much football. The kid from the Championship wasn't expected to play. It was supposed to be a transitionary season, but we haven't got any players. Can't recall Sanchez, not that we'd want to, because there is no recall. Much like Smalling, no recall clause in the contract. This is apparently not unusual for these sort of basically international loans are 1 year controlled transfers, so apparently it's not unusual.
Proper hilarious. Like the inter-coach, Conte's been having a pop at Alexis Sanchez for not being fit enough and not being ready to play. It's like, who?
We are currently paying Alexis £200,000 a week to not play for
or
us.
Inter, just to not play for anyone. Talking of which,
anyway, so the point being, we are desperately short at the moment, and Holly has been talking about getting loans in. I mean, what is it? Well, like, let's phone a friend. You got anyone to loan? You got anyone to loan? Anyone?
Do you think Leicester?
Can you think of any players we could loan at the
Villa
moment?
want to loan us Jack Grealish? Is that what? Did you think Ed Woodward's ringing up, going, "Can we just borrow him for a bit"? The other transfer story, of course, is that Ashley Young has actually left United. That we kind of knew that was happening, but that's
went on striking odds to get his €1.5 million move to Inter.
Football cliches. Adam Hurrey tweeting 1.5 million is a very quaint transfer fee, isn't it? It's like sort of the same as free now, but when you think about that, it's like 1.5 million of money is effectively free. It's really a weird world. So that's the transfer roundup, which is that we've sold Ashley Young and not bought anyone. United.
Yes. So we've weakened our squad. Much as like Ashley Young has been not fit for purpose for quite some time. We are a Luke Shaw injury or a Brandon Williams injury, given that we're running him into the ground now, apparently, away from being desperately short again. Anyway, we're playing Burnley on Wednesday night.
Sorry,
do you want to talk about Burnley?
Yeah, I just Googled Bruno Fernandes just to see what happened, and the Daily Express had this headline that, like, Man United make breakthrough in Bruno Fernandes thing. And I looked at it, I was like, I really don't want to click on this because I know what it's going to be. Like, I used to cover... sometimes I would cover the rumour tracker for Bleacher Report, where you'd kind of go through all the different rumour pages.
So it's all your fault, is what you're saying?
No, it's almost none of it is my fault. But you go through the papers and you get very used to seeing these headlines, and you know this is going to be a spurious link to a third-party source of which you have absolutely no way of validating the quality of that source or otherwise, but it's presented as fact in the headline. And that's literally exactly what happened. A source I've never heard of is claiming that a deal is closer. I think the world is a very bad place in a lot of different ways, and this is one of the reasons why. And talking of the world being a very bad place, low block 4-4-2... with well-organised central defenders.
Straight up 4-4-2 from Burnley.
That's not bad. Like, I don't think that's bad, but I think it's bad for us. I
mean, look, by the way, Chris Wood and Ashley Barnes have scored goals this season in a team that doesn't score many. They've got 15 between them.
Yeah, I think
not
bad. Barnes is injured, I think, which is...
So,
I only know this because...
Jay Rodriguez will play up front, I guess, with Chris Wood.
Yeah, exactly. And that... I'm not saying Chris Wood could score a goal on a set piece against Man United. That is for sure. As could the big centre backs. But the thing that worries me is, unlike at home, where we have a very at Turf Moor, we have a very good record against Burnley at Turf Moor. We have a terrible record at Old Trafford against Burnley. They keep getting a draw every time they come. Basically, there was a 2-2 draw last season, and then there was, of course, that 0-0 draw in Mourinho's first season when Zlatan turned Tom Heaton into David De Gea. But I don't know. I'm extremely pessimistic about this game based on based on how exhausted James looked. I guess we'll see Juan Mata, which I think is a good thing. I guess the thing that worries me is that he's not going to start Mason Greenwood, that he'll start Pereira.
But he should start Mason Greenwood, 100%. and James needs a rest. But I don't know what formation it means, because there's no point playing three at the back in this game. Maguire and Lindelof, for all their faults, can defend 1v1, and United do not need to be playing five at the back effectively. So I would imagine back to 4-2-3-1. Matic's going to have to play again because we haven't got any midfielders. I think you're right. Mata should come into the side. He's still our sort of most creative of those number 10s.
He was really good against Norwich. He was.
Yeah. But then the three up front's a problem, because if James gets rest, unless you push Pereira out wide, which could happen, I don't think Lingard's fit, is he?
No, and also a long way
maybe
down
Angel
the pecking
Gomez
order.
gets a chance. Maybe. I mean,
I don't think there's any chance of that whatsoever, because I actually think that, I mean, I think it's going to be James left, Martial through the middle, and either Greenwood or Pereira right. Like that's what I think might happen. I mean, he played Mata and Pereira back at the start of the season, and it was a disastrous combination. You almost can't do that. What I think should happen, I guess, is James, Martial and Greenwood, and then you rest James next. I don't know, but I don't know. Complaining about injury management and then just saying, yeah, we should just play all these exhausted players seems a little unfair. But it's a massive problem because the fixtures keep coming. There's no, like, I was going to say there's no let up, but we're going to play. Aren't we supposed to be playing our FA Cup game this weekend?
Yeah, but the Tranmere Watford game is on Thursday. Right. I think Tranmere Watford game is on Thursday.
Right.
I don't know that the weekend has been reserved for the United Watford Tranmere game. I'm not sure. So
right.
We may well have a week off. We've got Wolves on the 1st of Feb, haven't we?
Yeah, we've got City before that, though, in the Carabao second.
Oh, in the second leg. So they can't even push the cup game to midweek. I mean, it might be that the cup game is then pushed to the replay date, which would be the 4th of Feb, I think. Something like that.
I've just Googled it, and the Google have got it saying 3:00 kickoff on Sunday the 26th, TBD versus Manchester United, but I'm sure that can't actually be right.
It seems unlikely just because police seem to require 10 days, but maybe it is right. Assuming Prenton Park is in a fit state to be using, because it's not been much. United's women's game got cancelled against Liverpool there recently. Quite a lot of Liverpool women's games have been cancelled, which they might be relieved because the men's team's great. The women's team's bottom of the Women's Super League at the moment. By the way, good win for United at the weekend. Women's team won 3-0. Needed that, I think, against Spurs and pushing up the table again. So, yeah, we'll see. Maybe we've got a cup game in the weekend. Maybe not. We'll know by the time the Friday pod's out.
I hope so. But yeah, so anyway, the whole point being is I think that the team selection is going to be a big problem for this one. I think trying to get any fluency in the side is going to be a big problem for this one. And I think Burnley are not going to be the generous, kind-hearted visitors that Norwich City were. And I think this is going to be a really tricky tie. I'd love it if we score early and they have to come out and we prove that wrong, but I think it's gonna need some magic, and at the moment the players look tired, they look leggy, there doesn't look to be a lot of magic doing the rounds at the moment. Maybe Juan Mata will inject that sort of bursty little, running around the, just sort of general running around near the box that he does. Maybe that'll invest some energy, insert some energy.
I mean, look, a few positive words. So Burnley a bit rubbish this season. Create hardly any chances and concede quite a lot of chances, right? So even though they've got some decent players at the back there, they do concede a lot. So United should be able to fashion something, even with a threadbare squad. So I don't expect it to be particularly pretty or United be completely fluent. I'm not quite sure how they're going to patch up the team. I'm hoping a bunch of more players aren't playing with injuries. And we'll see. But, maybe a narrow win if I was going to pick something.
I'm going to predict a 0-0 draw.
Oh, I should love it. Anyway, we said we'd do a short pod because of your ankle knack. And we've been babbling on for near enough 45 minutes now. So
that'll probably do. Thanks to everyone for listening. Patreon backers, we will be back with extra bonus content next week, or we might try and squeeze extra content into the midweek show. Everyone else, if you want to get involved in that, head over to patreon.com/rankcast for ad-free shows and extra content, except when
slash rankcast slash.
Oh, what? Oh, I finally did it all these weeks and months later. /NQAT pod. I've been waiting for that mistake to happen. But yeah, patreon.com/NQATpod.
It's like calling your new girlfriend by your girlfriend's name at the crucial moment.
And follow us on Instagram at NQATpod. That's my favourite social media call to action at the moment is follow us on Instagram for some reason. I don't know.
Very good.
We're having fun there.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for bearing with us, Paul. Go sort out your ankle knack. No heading off to any kind of fashion events with your crooked ankles because Custis will be after you.
I'm going to watch my brother play in a charity match. And with that, we'll see you all in the midweek.
All right. Bye now.
No question about that.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.